I used to think words didn't hurt as much as actions, that they were just sound, floating through the air, gone once silence returned. But that night proved me wrong. Words can destroy everything you've built in a single breath. My name's Sarah. I've been married to Caleb for 7 years. He's the kind of man who rarely talks about himself, quiet, steady, the anchor type. He's not flashy, not loud, but reliable in the way that makes you feel safe without realizing it. Maybe that was part of the problem. I got too comfortable, too used to the security he gave me. It was a Friday night dinner with our friends in Boise, Idaho. 4 couples gathered around a table filled with laughter, wine, and way too many stories from the past. The conversation turned to relationships, the usual who wears the pants kind of jokes. I remember sipping my drink, smiling, feeling that buzz of attention as everyone looked at me. "Sarah, you're the lucky one," my friend Mia said. "Caleb's a saint." I don't think I've ever seen him mad. And then I said it, the sentence that would change everything. I laughed and replied, "That's because he's more like my second child than my husband." The table erupted in laughter. It felt good, that rush of validation from being the funny one. Even Mia giggled. Everyone thought it was harmless. Everyone except Caleb. He didn't laugh, didn't say a word, just sat there staring at his plate with that stillness that looked calm to others. But I knew better. It was the kind of quiet that comes right before something breaks. I noticed, but brushed it off. I thought he'd get over it. It was just a joke, right? The rest of the evening carried on, but Caleb stayed silent. When people teased him, he smiled faintly, polite, detached. Later, while everyone was talking about vacation plans, he suddenly looked up and said, "You're right, Sarah. Sometimes it does feel like I'm just another one of your kids, especially when I'm the only one in this marriage who remembers how to be an adult." The laughter stopped. You could hear the wine glasses clink softly as people froze. My stomach dropped. He wasn't loud, but his tone was razor sharp, calm, factual, but heavy enough to cut through the entire room. For a second, I wanted to laugh it off again, pretend it was banter. But the way he looked at me made my throat dry. That was the moment I realized the man I thought would never stand up for himself finally had. The car ride home that night was silent. Painfully, suffocatingly silent. Streetlights flashed across Caleb's face, his jaw tight, his eyes forward. I wanted to say something, anything. But every word I rehearsed sounded wrong in my head. When we finally parked in front of our house on Maple Street, Boise, he got out without waiting for me. I followed him inside, heart pounding. "Caleb," I started softly. "You know I didn't mean it like that." It was just a joke. He didn't turn around. "A joke?" he repeated quietly, hanging his coat. "You embarrassed me in front of our friends, and now it's a joke." I sighed, trying to stay calm. "Oh, come on. Everyone jokes about their partners. You're taking it too seriously." He faced me then, and his eyes, usually warm and gentle, looked tired. "No, Sarah. You've been joking about me for a long time. Tonight was just the first time I called you out on it." His words hit harder than I expected. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. He walked past me into the living room, sitting down like he'd just aged 10 years in one night. "You know what's funny?" he said after a long pause. "I listen to you tell stories about our life like you're the only one living it. I'm always the punchline, the forgetful husband, the boring man, the one who doesn't get it. And every time, you laugh. and I let you because I thought it made you happy. My chest tightened. Caleb, But he interrupted, his voice low. Tonight, I realized something. You don't respect me anymore. You respect how people see you when you joke about me. I felt my stomach twist. That's not true, I said, tears stinging my eyes. I love you. You know I love you? He shook his head slowly. No, Sarah. You love the version of me that doesn't speak up, the one who stays quiet so you can shine. That silence after his words was worse than any yelling could have been. For the first time in years, I saw how small he'd started to make himself for me. How often he'd smiled through disrespect because he didn't want to fight. That realization burned. He stood up, looked at me once more, and said, I think we should take some space. I need to remember who I was before being someone's punchline. And with that, he walked into the guest room, shutting the door softly behind him. The quietest goodbye I'd ever heard. The days that followed felt hollow. I went through the motions, work, errands, dinners alone. But everything felt heavy, like the air itself had changed. Caleb barely spoke to me. We shared the same roof, but lived like ghosts in separate worlds. At night, I'd hear him moving around in the guest room, packing little by little. That sound made my chest ache. I wanted to talk, to fix it. But shame kept my voice locked inside. Every word I could say felt too small, too late. A week later, I came home to find his things gone. His closet was half empty, and the faint smell of his cologne lingered like a memory refusing to fade. On the kitchen table, there was a note. Handwritten, neat, painfully polite. Sarah, I've spent years trying to laugh with you, but somewhere along the way, you started laughing at me. Maybe you didn't mean to, but you did. I don't hate you, and I don't wish you harm. I just need peace, the kind that doesn't come from pretending everything's fine. Take care of yourself. Caleb. I must have read that note 100 times, each line cutting deeper than the last. There were no accusations, no anger, just quiet disappointment. And somehow, that hurt more than rage ever could. For days, I kept replaying that night in my head. The way everyone had laughed, the look on his face, the silence that followed. I told myself it was harmless. But the truth was, I'd used humor to hide how disconnected we'd become. It wasn't just one joke that ended us. It was the pattern, the little digs, the public jabs, the careless moments where I chose attention over affection. I'd made him feel small to make myself feel seen. One evening, I went to his brother's house in Meridian, Idaho, to return his watch. Caleb answered the door, looking calmer, lighter somehow. He didn't invite me in, and I didn't ask. I read your note, I said quietly. You were right. I stopped respecting you without even realizing it. He nodded, not unkindly. I hope you learn to stop doing that, not just to me, but to anyone who loves you. That was the last time I saw him. Months later, I'd still catch myself stopping mid-laugh at a friend's joke, remembering how easy it is to hurt someone with words disguised as humor. And whenever someone asks what happened to my marriage, I just say the truth. I mistook love for tolerance. Because sometimes the cruelest thing you can do isn't betrayal. It's making the person who loves you feel like a fool.